Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tiffany. In the last video, we discussed Shelley's poetry collection. And we know his poetry shows his romantic style and always used irony in his poems. I introduced the poem Ozymandias to show his amazing irony. Today, I want to show you guys a representative romantic poem of Shelley, which is called To a Skylark. So now we can see it is really long poem, and this long poem mainly talks about the delightful song of the skylark. Mary Shelley said her husband, who is the writer of this poem, heard the beautiful song of skylark while he was working. So Percy B. Shelley created this poem. According to this, we know the narrator of this poem is Shelley, and the whole poem expresses his emotion and thinking. And through the title in the entire poem, just like I said, Shelley really liked to create poems about nature. And this poem To a Skylark also shows the theme of nature. Now, let us specifically look at this poem. This long poem has 21 stanzas, and each stanza has 5 lines. Also, we can see the rhyme schedule of this poem is the same, because each stanza's rhyme is A, B, A, B, B. Like here, Ewan, flight, heaven, daylight, and delight. So that's A, B, A, B, B. I colored the rhyme schedule in each stanza, so that's pretty clear. I think the highlights of this poem are the using of figures of speech. In particular, Shelley used similes to compare the skylark. So first, we can see Shelley used a poet to compare the skylark. The last line, to sympathy with hopes and fears it heed not, illustrates the poet uses his hymns to help people, but here, Shelley wants to show the skylark is as same as the poet, that it can use its beautiful song to make people feel better. In the second stanza, Shelley used high-born maiden to compare the skylark. These 2 lines, soothing her love laden, and with music sweet as love which overflows her bower, illustrate the song of skylark is like sweet music, which can soothe the grieved mood. And we can see the first 2 stanzas are about people comparison, and the last 2 use nature to compare the skylark. First, Shelley used worm to describe the skylark. Worm always with the bright light. I think here Shelley used worm just wanna express the amazing feeling that the skylark brought to him. Also, the last line, among the flowers and grass which screen it from the will, corresponds to the previous stanzas. Though Shelley couldn't see the skylark, he could hear the song, and the line shows nature's beauty. The last comparison is rose. Rose is a romantic symbol, so it can show the poem is romantic. The song of the skylark makes Shelley immersed in this atmosphere. He used mix faint with too much sweet those heavy-winged thieves to show the song of the skylark is attractive. It is like the most attractive thing in nature, because Shelley even described the bee into heavy-winged thieves to present the significant meaning of skylark's song. Through this analysis of similes, we can see the comparisons with some romantic elements, which shows the romantic style of Shelley. Also, in this poem, Shelley added other figures of speech like symbol and alliteration. Like in the second stanza, the writer used the alliteration, "Sing still dost soar," and "soaring ever singest." Finally, let's talk about the using of the symbol. And in fact, the skylark is a symbol of nature. So that's really apparent. Nature is mysterious to Shelley, so Shelley wrote some nature theme poems like The Cloud and the famous poem I mentioned before, Ode to the West Wind. He always saw the truth of life in nature. In this poem, he used skylark to express the freedom, the delight, and the perfection of nature. Life is tragic, but the free skylark can always be delighted. So Shelley used nature to compare life. He was finding the answer from the skylark, or we can see from nature. I said To a Skylark is a romantic poem, and there are two reasons to explain that. First, he used nature and expressed romantically. Like the first line, "How to see, blithe spirit." He said the skylark is not a common bird. It is a blithe spirit, which shows Shelley thinks nature is worth respecting and nature is the beauty in our life. Second, he expressed his emotion in the song. We know romantic poem is mainly to show the emotion and mood. To a Skylark is a poem with sad mood. Like, we look before and after, in pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter, with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought. Though the poem is tragic, Shelley used the delightful symbol, which is the skylark, to show his hope for delight. So that's the analysis of the romantic poem To a Skylark. Now my two examples have done. Finally, let's conclude the poetry collection. Well, I think the biggest challenge for me when reading the poetry collection is the background. It is better to know the background of the poems, or I would feel confused about the poems and couldn't get a main idea of the poems. Also, some unapparent figures of speech are likely important to the poems and themes, but sometimes I couldn't find it out. However, after I read the poetry, I have better reading skills and learn more knowledge about the literature. Shelley spent his life against the upsets in his life, so most of his poems contain a depressed mood. As a poet of the Romantic period, he would use his literature to give the people in that society a big power. Shelley just wanted to express his tragic life in a tragic world at the time, but he uses irony and romantic elements to create these unique poems. I think that's a reason why his poetry collection is famous. Irony makes his poetry more profound, and romanticism makes his poetry more special. Irony and romanticism illustrate new ideas from people and reflect society's changes. Also, Shelley used nature to let us learn from the changes in nature and the attitude toward life. Due to the theme of nature, parts of poems carry a sense of mystery and illusion, making Shelley's romanticism even more prominent. His poetry collection brought many philosophies and advanced views, so it impacted later literature and society. Finally, I still want to use the famous quotation to end my video. If winter comes, can spring be far behind? Although life is not always as it should be, there is always new hope. Shelley's poems brought warmth and assistance to the people at the time, and also supported himself. So poetry is worth to be studied and poets are worth to be admired. Here is my references. So the travel of the poetic word ends. Thanks for listening and watching. See you next time.